Regarding, regarding a sheretz that is found in the eye of an oven, or in the eye of a stove, or in the eye of a kupak, or from the inner edge and outward, the oven is tahor. And if it was in the air, even if an olive's volume of a corpse was in the eye is tahor. If there's an opening of tefach in the eye, everything is tummy. If a sheretz was found in the place for laying the wood, Rabbi Yehuda says from the outer edge and inward, the stove is tummy, but the sages say from the inner edge and outward, the stove is tahor. Rabbi Yossi says from the point opposite where the pot is set, and inward the stove is tummy, from the point opposite where the pot is set, and outward the stove is tahor. If a sheretz was found in the place where the bathhouse attendant sits, or in the place where the dyer sits, or the place where those who cook olives sit, the stove is tahor. If it is tummy, only if the sheretz was found from the place where the pot covers up the opening and inward. A pit that has a place in it for a pot to be set is tummy, and a pit of glass makers, if it has it in a place of a pot to be set, is tummy. A furnace of lime manufacturers, or furnace of glassware manufacturers, or furnace of potters is tahor. A perna, if it has a rim, is tummy. And Rabbi Yehuda says if it has istigos, it is tummy. Rabbi Gamliel says if it has a thin lip, it is tummy.
Okay.
By the way, they cook olive. They cook olives. I don't eat olives. I can't eat olives. So
yeah, you do need to cook the olives before you can eat them. That's otherwise they're very hard.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought they just come off the tree like other fruit and stuff. And
no, they're not edible straight off the tree.
Oh,
you can press the oil out of them straight off.
Right. Yeah, but that. Okay. Well, you got your machine fixed. You got your machine fixed? You did it?
I bought a new French press and took it to mikveh last night. So
great. Okay. All right. We are on you.
Okay. Okay, maga tameme. So here's a person who has been touched by somebody who's tameme. In other words, the person himself is a rishon. Now, just to give you some quick background, a kli can only become a rishon, it can't become a sheni. Okay, which means that if the person himself is a rishon and he touches a kli, the kli remains tahor. Okay, but if you recall, we have this thing about liquids. Okay, so a person can become a rishon, his hands can become a sheni. Okay, the kli can only become a rishon, food can become a sheni. And then when you start getting into things like truma can become a shlishi, and kodshim can become a revi. Okay, now but when it comes to liquids are an anomaly, because Chazal we go there that liquids sort of reboost the level of tumah, so that if a liquid becomes a sheni l'tumah even, then it gets boosted back up to rishon and is matame Keilim as a rishon. So it kind of gets a double boost upwards. It would be as if the liquid were an avatuma itself. Okay. So now here's a guy who is a rishon l'tumah. Because he's maget memes. He touched somebody else who was a rishon. Okay, who was an avatuma. He had food and drink in his mouth. Now, just parenthetically, the food part here is not so important, but it's mentioned here because of the second part of the Mishnah, which also has food and drink. So they just kept the concord of the Mishnah that he's got food and drink in his mouth. Okay. So ichnis rosho la'avir hatanor tahor. So there's a big oven, and while he's got this food in his mouth, food and drink in his mouth specifically, he sticks his head into the oven to see what's going on inside there. But now what's happened is he's got tame liquids in his mouth, and the tame liquids just entered the airspace of the oven. Now the person himself does not insulate. Now, as opposed to the case we had before with the chicken had actually swallowed the sheretz. So the chicken, while it was alive, insulated against the sherets, but when it died, then there was just a chicken and a sherets inside the oven. Okay, but here it's in his mouth. He hasn't actually swallowed it, so it's not. So he's not insulating against it. Okay, hatano tame, and so so he put his head into a tahor oven, which means he now made the tanor tame. Okay. Now the tahor, so now he has a tahor person. Shehayu ochlin mashkin lasoch piv. He had food or drink in his mouth. Okay. Veichnis rosha la'avir hatanor tame, and he put his head into a tame oven. So the oven now is if the oven is tame and he has food or drink in his mouth and he sticks his head inside, then inside his mouth the food or drink becomes tame, because remember, foods can always become a sheni.
Okay.
So the food that's inside his mouth immediately becomes tame because he does not insulate against it. It's like it's Keilim, his head isn't there. He himself remains tahor because he hasn't because he can't. A person doesn't become a sheni, but the food in his mouth immediately becomes tame, which means that if he happened to be a kohen who was eating truma or something, then he immediately has to spit it out, because. Or if he's keeping the chumrah of eating chulin altaris kodesh, then where even his chulin he keeps tahor, then he would not be allowed to eat it. Okay. So now here's another case where a guy is eating pressed figs with hands that he hasn't done a tilas yadayim on. In other words, his hands are a sheni.
Right.
Okay, which means it's fine because his hands are sheni. He picked up the figs, and the figs are just like you can't, if the figs don't become a shlishi. But now he's put them into his mouth, and he's busy chewing them. So now what's happened? He's generating saliva, and his saliva is a liquid. Okay, and now he sticks his hand into his mouth because there was a stone inside. Then he wants to pull the stone out. Rabbi Meir matame. Rabbi Meir says immediately that's now become tame because his hand has just touched his saliva, and the saliva is a liquid, and that makes the vela tame. Rabbi Yehuda Matari says nothing doing. That's your saliva only becomes a liquid if you spit it, if you take it out of your mouth. But if it's still inside your mouth, that's not considered a liquid that Chazal will go there on. Rabbi Yossi takes a compromise position between the two. Im hafach tamei, im lo hafach tahor. What is hafach? If he moved the fig from his with his hand from one side of his mouth to the other when he removed the pebble, then it's rendered tamei. But if he didn't move it, it remains tahor. This is because by moving the fig, the person causes some of the saliva in his mouth to move as well. Okay, in Rabbi Yossi's opinion, saliva in one's mouth is considered a tumor susceptible beverage, but only if it was displaced in one's mouth. So he's got that sort of middle position between Rabbi Yodi and Rabbi Meir. Okay. Hayapundion, let's piv. What happens if a person put a coin into his mouth to relieve thirst? Now, footnote over here: don't put money in your mouth. That's. I mean, you don't need me to tell you that. That's in the Gemara as well. The Gemara warns you in other places that it's dangerous to put coins in your mouth. Not just the choking hazard, but those things have been going from hand to hand to hand to hand to hand, and you have no idea where they've been. But
if someone says, "Don't put your money where your mouth is," don't
not literally, not meant to be taken literally. Okay. Okay. But what he does, but why a person might think to do something like that is because the metal somehow has reached with his salivary glands, that it stimulates production of saliva, which somehow relieves his thirst. Not sure if that's really a thing, but he thinks it is. And that's the important thing, is that this guy thought it was a good idea to relieve his thirst. Okay. So if he has this coin in his mouth and he stuck his finger into his mouth in order to move it, so this drew out the saliva. So now again, Rabbi Yossi says, Im letzma'o tameh. If he did it deliberately to make saliva get generated, basically, then it will be tameh, because again, he's moved the saliva, he's withdrawn the saliva to make it come out. and therefore the tumor will move onto his saliva.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, this woman here is she is Tameh herself. Either she's a whatever kind of tumor she's got, whether she's a nida and making her an ava tumor, or she's a rishon the tumor because she touched somebody who's Tameh mace. Okay, but she was leaning over an oven, and some milk dripped from her breasts into the air of the tanner. So her milk, of course, is tameh as well because it's a liquid that came out of her, even if she didn't intend it. Now, remember in machshirin, we did machshirin recently where we were talking about liquids that prepare foods for tumah. Right, 7 liquids, and those always have to be leratzon, right? B'chi yutan. We kept saying if water is placed. Right, but that's the rule, that it has to be intentional. It has to be something that a person's happy about, right? And what the Mishna is coming to tell us is that that's not the story over here. It doesn't matter whether it's intentional or unintentional. Fact is, she is tameh, and her milk is tameh, and it's a liquid, so immediately it's going to be matameh the oven. Okay, it doesn't matter whether she's pleased or not pleased. It's just a fact. Tameh liquid makes it tameh. Okay, as distinct from machshirin. Haisa gorfatu. Okay, if she was busy shoveling ashes out of the oven. Okay, and she cut herself on a sharp edge or something, and now she's got blood. Okay, remember blood over here is a liquid, and that's going to be tameh. Or she got burnt. She burnt herself and quickly put her finger into her mouth to cool it down, and now she's got saliva on her finger. Okay, nitzma. And whether it's the blood that drips back into the oven, or the saliva that dripped off her finger after she burned it and it fell into the oven, or she just even stuck her finger into the airspace when it's coated in saliva. The airspace, remember, is tameh, and all of these cases are tameh. Okay. Tes aleph, machat, a needle or a ring. Okay. So the needle and the ring, you got to watch this Mishnah carefully, because it doesn't explicitly tell you the status of the needle or the ring initially, but we have to fill in the blanks from the circumstances. And it turns out that in the first part of our Mishnah, the needle is something that we recognize as being tameh. It was in the same oil as a mace or something like that, and we know that this needle was tameh. Or there's a ring which has got it's distinctive, and we recognize it as having as being a tameh needle. Okay, and it got lost, and then found it. Nimtza ben nechushto shel tanor. He found it in the floor of the oven. So I was wondering where that needle got to. I was wondering where that ring got to, and he looks at it and finds it in the bottom of the oven. And you think, okay, so what does that do to our oven over here? Okay, near in aval lo yotz in. Okay, so they're in the floor of the oven, but they don't. But like the floor of the oven is a little bit concave. So the ring is like right at the bottom over there. It's not actually in the airspace of the oven proper. If it were inside the airspace of the oven proper, we wouldn't have a shaila. Of course, it would be tameh. But now it's in the base, and it's not quite protruding into the oven. Okay. So now, how do you judge if this will make the oven tameh? And Mishnah tells us, im ofe esabatzek v'nuger tameh. So if you were to take some dough and lay it on the floor of the oven, would the dough subside so deep that it would touch the ring or the needle? Okay, if it would touch them, then yes, it's called tameh. Okay, and if not, obviously it's considered not part of the oven proper, and it would be tahor. What type of dough are we talking about? A medium one. Okay, not a very soft dough, a soft batter would be like a liquid. It would just fill the bottom, and a very stiff dough, wouldn't move even off the flat. It would just hold its form. So you want a sort of a dough that would more slightly subside, but not totally. So so this intermediate dough is what we judge it by. Nimtzu b'tfeila satanur. Okay, now we're going to have to now we've got to suddenly change our perspective on this needle or ring, and now we consider that they are tahor. But what's the situation? Nimtzu b'tfeila satanur mukaf tzamid patil. So somebody there was an oven that had been sealed with a tzamid pasil, right? That whenever we see a tzamid pasil, we know that everything inside it is protected from any kind of tumah. Okay, so now how did we find these rings? Okay, it got cracked open, let's say, and we say, oh, there's the ring. They say, oh, but this oven was inside an oil hames at one point, so maybe the ring is tameh. And we've got to, and so we ask the shaila, and they say, okay, let's just see about this. If so you can see where it is in that diagram. It was found in the coating of the oven. So remember we had that shaila if the coating is really part of the oven or not, because it's not. It's just there for insulation. But we say that is considered part of the oven because it's necessary for the oven. Because if the oven were to become tameh, the coating also becomes tameh. So it's all part of the same. It's all part of the same kli. Okay. Im betame tamein. If they're in a tameh oven, they're tameh, and if they're in a tahor oven, they're tahor. So what does it mean if they're in a tameh oven was in a mukaf tzamid pasil? So if the oven in which the needle or ring is embedded had been rendered tameh prior to being brought into the room that contained the corpse, then it's rendered tameh by the corpse, because a tzamid pasil doesn't prevent a corpse tumah, doesn't protect. A tzamid pasil only protects if the kli itself is tahor. Okay, but if it's tameh, then it does not protect. So that's really what we're saying over here. If the tanur was tahor when it was sealed, then it's completely protected against even a corpse tumah in an ohel. Okay, and it even protects the ring that's inside its coating. Now, what happens if they're in the bung, right? The seals. And so you see the diagram on 401. Right. So somebody took clay to stop up a pitcher. Okay, and they put a little extra to seal it up. Okay, and somehow the ring got mixed up in the seal, and it was on the edge over there, which is not part of what's actually required for the tzamid pasil. So if it's found in the if it's on the side over there where it's not necessary for the seal, that's not part of the tzamid pasil, and therefore the ring would still be tameh in the ohel. Okay, mikeneged piha, but if it's inside the mouth, like we see on the diagram on 402, that's tahor, because that's part of the tzamid pasil. It is protected by the tzamid pasil. Okay, Torin. Nirin besocha avalol avira. If it's inside it but not in its airspace, it's still tahor. Shokim besocha betachtem keklik pasashum tahorin. So even if as long as it stays inside the seal, even if there's like the thickness of a garlic peel between it and the interior of the barrel, it still remains tahor. Now, what happens if it actually goes into the airspace? So now it is inside the airspace of the barrel. That should why is it just? Oh yes, right. So of course the reason why we're concerned that it doesn't actually enter the airspace of the barrel is because we have a gezerah that we learned, and we've learned this before. It was one of the arguments of Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, where Beis Hillel eventually conceded to the point of Beis Shammai, where we said that a tzamid pasil protects protects the food that's inside. It only protects food and other Keilim that are sorry, it only protects food and other klei cheres that are inside your klei cheres. It doesn't protect metal. It doesn't protect metal Keilim or wood Keilim or anything that can go to mikveh. Why did we say that? Is because Beis Shammai said, there's a problem because of Amei Haaretz. Okay, Amei Haaretz are not very careful about Tumah and Tara. And so but now a chaver is allowed to borrow Keilim from an Am Haaretz. Why?
Right.
Because it's okay, so he touched it, he was tamei, so he'll take the Keilim from the Am Haaretz and he'll take them to mikveh, dunk, and now they're fine. I can use them. Okay. But the problem comes when you've got Keilim that might be tamei mace. Because the chaver will say to the Am Haaretz, thank you for lending me your Keilim over here. Just tell me, are they tamei mace? And the Am Haaretz is believed because they know about tumas mace. Right? They're all aware of an ohel and whatever, and they'll tell you for sure if something is tamei mace. Okay, so in which case it needs a sprinkling from the paraduma and whatever in order to become tara. That's a big drag which nobody wants to go through. Okay, so he'll say no, it's not tamei mace. So then the chaver will just quietly go and take him to mikveh in case the Am Haaretz was tamei and now he's got tara Keilim. But problem comes with the kli cheres and samid pasil. If we paskin the halacha to everyone that it protects everything inside, which me'ikar adin it does, then the Am Haaretz is going to think, okay, my kli cheres had all these metal kalim inside it and was sealed, and it went into an ohel hamace, but I know that it protects against an ohel hamace, right? But the problem is that what the Am Haaretz didn't realize is that the kli was tamei in the first place, and if a kli is tamei, then a tamid pasil doesn't work. So and then he tells the chaver, no, it's not tamei mace, don't worry about it. And meanwhile, it really is tamei mace because the kli was tamei in the first place. So the only thing that tamid pasil protects against is food or drink, because the chaver is not going to take food or drink from the Am Haaretz in the first place, or anything that can't go to mikveh. He'll only take things that can go to mikveh, and the things that we say are not protected by the tamid pasil. So now, if this ring was protruding into the airspace of the kli, then we say that's not protected by the tamid pasil because that's a metal thing that could go to mikveh, and this whole story with the Amei Haaretz. Okay, and that is the end of our Mishnahs today. We're a little over time, so let's see what we can do before I need to go.
Before you go, what do you want to do about tomorrow? Because as far as Rosh Chodesh, you have the bris. How do you want to do tomorrow?
Keep the same timing.
At the same time, okay, all right.
I mean, I might just try and get to the early minyan, but either way, if I go to the early minyan, then we'll finish maybe somewhat later. But it's
Okay.
It's I suppose
Right, the same time. I'll call you when I get back in. Okay. Ched Zion. An oven that contracted tumah, how is it rendered tahor? One divides it into three sections and scrapes off the clay, floating down to the ground. Reb Meir says it is not necessary to scrape off the clay coating, nor it is necessary to divide it down to the ground. Rather, one reduces it from within to less than 4 tefachim. Reb Shimon says it must be moved. If one divided into two sections and one large and one small, the larger section is tamei and the smaller section is tahor. If one divided into three sections, such as that one section was as large as the other two, the larger one is tamei and the smaller ones are tahor. If one cut an oven into segments along its width, each segment that is less than 4 tefachim is tahor. If one places it with clay, it becomes susceptible to tumah from when he beats it enough to break sponge cakes in it. If one distances the clay coating from it and place sand or pebbles between them of such an oven, they said, neither and a woman what is tahor may bake in it and is tahor. An oven that came in pieces from the artisan workshop, and he made hoops for it when he puts them on. The oven is still tahor, and then it is tamei. If you remove the hoops, it is tahor. If you return the hoops to the oven, it is tahor. If you plaster it with clay, it becomes susceptible to tumah and need not be heated. He need not heat it since it was already heated.
Okay.
And we have tamid. Okay. The Kohen who won the privilege of the shovel heap received the coal on the top of the inner altar and flattened them at the bottom of the shovel and prostrated himself and exited. The Kohen who won the privilege of the incense service would take the spoon from within the ladle and would give the ladle to his friend or relative. If some spills from the spoon into the ladle, the friend or relative gives it to him in his cupped hands. And they instruct him, be careful that you not begin directly in front of you lest you get burned. He started arranging the incense and then he would leave the hekel. The one who offered the incense would not offer it until the appointed one said to him, offer the incense. And if it was a Kohen Gadol, the appointed one said to him, my master Kohen Gadol, offer the incense. The people moved away, and the Kohen Gadol offered the incense, and then he prostrated himself and exited. Okay, that's it. One more?
That's it.
That's it. Okay. We have Keilim. Keilim, Yud Base, Gibel. If she was flying as long as her wings touch the nest, he is obligated to send you away. If her wings do not touch the nest, he is exempt from sending her away. If there is only one chick and one egg, he is obligated to send away the mother bird. As it is stated, a nest in any case. If there are fledglings of infertile eggs, he is exempt from sending away the mother bird, as it is stated, and the mother bird is sitting on the chicks or on the eggs. Just as the chicks are viable, so must the eggs be viable, which includes infertile ones. And just as the eggs need their mother, so do the chicks need their mother, which excludes fledglings. And he sent you away, he returned. And he sent you away, and she returned. Even 4 of the 5 times, he is still obligated to send you away. As it is stated, you shall surely send her away. If one says, I will take the mother bird and send away the young, he is obligated to send away the mother bird. As it is stated, you shall surely send away the mother bird. If he took the young and returned them to the nest, and afterwards the mother bird returned upon them, he is exempt from sending her away. If one takes a mother bird while on her young, Rabbi Yehuda says he incurs the penalty of lashes and need not send her away. But the sages say he must send her away, and he does not incur the penalty of lashes. This is the rule. Any negative commandment that has a positive commandment, one does not incur the penalty of lashes for its violation. A person may not take the mother bird while on the young, even to purify a mitzvah. Now, concerning an easy commandment that now involves the loss of about an isser, the Torah states, in order that it be good for you and you may live long, how much more does this apply to the difficult commandments in the Torah? Hadron Allah.
Hadron Allah, Maseches Keilim, tomorrow's Bechoros.
Okay.
Okay, Baba Basra.
Okay, if one, this is Dalit. If one says to another, I'm selling you half the field, they divide the field between them quantitatively. And he takes half his field. If he said, I'm selling you the southern half, they divide the field between them quantitatively, and he takes equal to the southern half. He accepts upon himself the place for the fence, a wide ditch and a narrow ditch. And how wide is a wide ditch? It says handbreadths, and a narrow ditch, 3 handbreadths. There are those who inherit and bequeath, and there are those who inherit but do not bequeath. Those who bequeath but do not inherit, and who shall neither inherit nor bequeath, these inherit and bequeath. A father, his sons, sons of their father, the brothers from the same father inherit and bequeath. A man, his mother, a man, his wife, and the sister's sons inherit but do not bequeath. A woman, her sons, and a woman, her husband, and a woman's mother's brothers bequeath her but do not inherit. Brothers by the same mother neither inherit nor bequeath. The order of inheritance is as follows. If a man should die and he has no son, you shall transfer his legacy to his daughter. A son takes precedence over a daughter, and all the descendants of a son take precedence over a daughter. A daughter takes precedence over brothers, and the descendants of a daughter take precedence over brothers. Brothers take precedence over the father's brothers, and the descendants of brothers take precedence over the father's brothers. This is the rule. Whoever takes precedence in the inheritance, the descendants take precedence. But his father takes precedence over all the descendants. The daughters of
That's it.
Finished. Okay. All right.
I think I'm going to have to leave at this point.
All right. We finished that though, right? We finished all 3.
Yeah, we did.
We have 2 more to go. So yeah, you have to. Well, I try to do one more.
No, I want to go.
Okay. Have a good day. I'll see you.